This is Paul. Yes. You know these false, fictitious, or fraudulent statements? Yeah. They happen to be against the law. To say I was in Swing, Washington when I wasn't? Yes. Um, it's false. It's not just a false police report. I don't think Heidi actually reported the allegation of domestic violence. Yeah. Since she didn't sign the protection order. Somebody else was making shows, getting gratuities. Were you? Did you get paid to produce a false, fictitious, or fraudulent representation that I was in Sequim, Washington? Now, these are federal crimes, and maybe law enforcement doesn't believe that they're enforced, but I went through some surveys, and there are actual individuals that get convicted of these. Now, did you want to play another game right now? I told you that I'm going to find each and every one of the false, yes, fictitious, or fraudulent statements, yes, of every employee of this government, Cloud County, yes, of Jefferson County prosecuting attorney, because I wasn't in Brendan, Washington. So your 2-count criminal complaint that had no protections to me as the suspect, yes, where you had me arraigned, was false, fictitious, and fraudulent. I never emailed Brendan, Washington, and I never emailed Quilcene. I emailed the documentation that you are issuing fraudulent protection orders, yes, and you're obstructing my right to have custody of my sons. So why don't you just remove your fraud? Because I tell you, every time I document a lawsuit, I'm going to fucking have you put in prison. Do you understand? Now, I don't play, well, he doesn't have any rights. And I know when you suggested that I was mentally ill, yes. I just proved in video, yes, that when I put it on Facebook, yes, the whole world's going to know. Now, as much as you want to shoot me or put me in a mental institution, it is the 7th of December, yes. 5 days from now, I'm supposed to appear in court, yes, for a false, fraudulent, and fictitious criminal complaint where I wasn't in Brennan, Washington. I did email the Port Townsend Police Department and the Port Townsend School District, yes. And as far as I know, my wife's not an employee of that school district. True, true, true. So your fraud has been obstructing my right to have my sons. Now that would go for the fraud of mental health evaluations. Yes. The fraud of police reports that are fraudulent, fictitious, and false. Now, I like these surveys because they discovered a scheme. Yes. A scheme that represented certain contracts. Yes. And then there's the illegal gratuities of coughing up the money or combing the money. Now, these schemes, the conspiracy to defraud the United States, yes, offenses involving the false statements, the fraudulent statements, and the false representation that I was in Brendan, Washington, or Sequim, Washington. Now, I witnessed this. False statements, yes, and a conspiracy to defraud the United States. Now, this defrauding of the United States, there's a little lawsuit here. Now, was obligated to certify the statements he made on the form, yes, were true, complete, and correct to the best of his knowledge and belief. Now, when we look at the form, Commissioner Basden, is it true, complete, and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief that the petitioner was not in court that day? See, the opposite of false, fraudulent, and fictitious court orders, yes, is true, complete, and correct. Now, you're going to get sued, Brent. You're going to get sued and imprisoned for the whole idea that you can use forgeries of the ex-official Superior Court clerk, yes, that you can make false, fictitious, and fraudulent statements on court orders, yes, because to the best of your knowledge and ability, Is this a true, complete, and correct protection order right now? No, it's not. It was not issued according to the requirements of the state of Washington. And for 7 years and 4 months, you've been obstructing my rights as an American citizen. And after 2,232,000 emails, you seem to think you can do this without getting prosecuted. Now, these surveys, yeah, I thought they were really good. Yeah. Something from the Department of Justice. Ooch. Now, Blowers, yes, was indicted on one felony count of violating 18 U.S. Code 1001. Knowingly, yeah, and willfully making a materially false statement. That would go for the Sequim Police Department. Knowingly and willfully making a materially false statement that I was in Sequim, Washington. That would go for Brett Roberts, ooch, for knowingly and willingly making the materially false statement of the 2-count criminal complaint. Now I have a big sign here. This is a lawsuit that both counties are going to get. Yes. And quite possibly this state and every state in the United States of America, because it doesn't seem like the oaths, badges, and attorneys that are employed in the government of each and every state of the United States understand that you can't use forgeries. Yes, you can't knowingly and willingly make false, fictitious, and fraudulent claims that protection orders were issued according to the RCWs of the state of Washington. Now, he pleaded guilty. That's something that you might want to consider doing. Yes, yes, yes. Making a false writing. Now, these false writings, yes, they have to be against the law. Now, pleaded guilty to 18 U.S. Code 209A, accepting the unlawful supplementation of her government salary. When we think of, did you get paid for the show? You know, I've heard that in the family, yes, if my relatives pay, they get to say, as in they could come some money and you would violate the laws, and that would be accepting unlawful supplementation.